If evolution is what happens when reality slowly edits patterns over deep time, then intelligence is that same editing loop compressed into moments, conversations, and choices. This raises a simple but uncomfortable question about modern life. What happens when that evolutionary search process stops exploring and begins to loop? Online environments shape that loop because each feed, search result, group chat, and friend circle forms a small ecosystem where memes compete for attention like organisms fighting for sunlight in a forest. Time and focus serve as the nutrients of that ecosystem, and memes evolve around the patterns of what is clicked, what is shared, and what is ignored. Recommendation systems amplify those patterns at global scale by acting as artificial selection engines that replicate some memes across millions of minds while starving others out of existence. Personal habits reinforce these pressures because every follow, block, mute, and share is a tiny evolutionary choice about which ideas are allowed to reproduce in a mind and in a network. Over time, these forces carve out narrow pockets in the wider landscape of possible ideas, and inside those pockets only certain emotions, stories, and enemies thrive. These pockets are usually called filter bubbles, but they are better understood as mimetic habitats with their own climate, food chain, and dominant species. Within each bubble, certain narrative species become apex predators that absorb almost all available attention because they fit that local environment exceptionally well. They learn to trigger familiar fears, validate familiar identities, and keep minds returning for more of the same pattern. From the inside, this feels like clarity and safety, but from the outside, it resembles a monoculture where a single crop has exhausted the soil. In evolutionary terms, a filter bubble is like a population stuck on a small hill in the fitness landscape, too comfortable to explore and too wary of stepping into the valleys needed to reach a higher peak. The local peak feels tall only because the bubble's walls hide the rest of the landscape. Political tribes show this when the opposing side becomes a cartoon villain and any nuance threatens the story that binds the group together. Tech cultures show this when a single tool or ideology becomes a sacred object and criticism is treated as treason rather than an opportunity to improve the map. Fandoms and lifestyles show this when every challenge is interpreted through a single favored lens, filtering out perspectives that could expand understanding. Across all these domains, the bubble behaves like an inbred gene pool, where variation shrinks, resilience fades, and familiar patterns recombine endlessly without producing anything truly new. When the outside world changes through crisis, scandal, or technological shock, these monocultures crack because their models were never stress-tested against different frames of reference. Some members double down and radicalize, while others experience a collapse of meaning, as if the ground under their worldview suddenly vanished. In both cases, the evolutionary process behind intelligence has been trapped in a narrow cul-de-sac. At the scale of society, the collective mind begins to resemble a fractured neural network, where islands of activity pulse intensely within themselves, but share only thin, hostile channels between them. It is as if the global brain has developed mimetic scar tissue that blocks curiosity and amplifies misunderstanding. A healthier flow of memes does not demand uniformity or agreement. It requires porous boundaries, cross-pollination paths, and shared channels that make translation between worldviews possible. In such an environment, many world models coexist and evolve, sometimes competing, sometimes merging, and sometimes offering surprising hybrids that no single bubble could produce on its own. This kind of friction is beneficial because it challenges assumptions and introduces variation that strengthens the overall search for better explanations. At the personal level, this means treating an information diet like physical fitness, where comfort alone signals that important muscles are being neglected. It means following at least a few thoughtful voices that provoke discomfort in constructive ways, and paying attention to bridge figures who translate between distant tribes. It also means periodically auditing a feed by asking which emotions it rewards and which questions it never allows to surface. At the technical level, designers can adjust recommendation systems to promote curiosity, diversity, and cross-exposure instead of pure engagement. Algorithms can occasionally surface calm disagreements or connective ideas that span distant clusters rather than feeding the most inflammatory content available. Platforms can highlight creators who help audiences understand multiple perspectives rather than rewarding only tribal dominance. None of this eliminates conflict, because genuine differences in values will always exist. But it does change the evolutionary game from enclosed tribal optimization to shared reality construction. If intelligence and evolution are the same process at different speeds, then keeping that process exploratory is essential for any society that wants to remain adaptable and sane. Each encounter with a challenging but honest idea nudges the global search process away from a local maximum and toward a broader, more resilient landscape. Each tool that encourages cross-pollination reduces the scar tissue in the global brain and improves its ability to integrate new information. Filter bubbles are evolutionary traps that isolate regions of thought into tight loops. But those loops can be opened by deliberate habits and wiser design choices. With healthier meme flow patterns, the global mind becomes less of a maze of echo chambers and more of a living network capable of facing the unknown with curiosity rather than fear.